Chapter 1 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Time. Travel for wedding. Feeling dizzy, with her mind blurring, Xiao Xian, who was lying in bed, heard the knock on the door. Then came the voice of a middle-aged woman, who sounded nervous as she asked. Duan, what happened just now? Is something wrong? I am fine, Mom. It was just that I hit the chair accidentally. The woman instantly got nervous. What? Are you hurt? No, I am fine. You must be very tired today from everything. Go and sleep now. Alright, but you should sleep earlier too. It was quiet outside the door, but Xiao Xian was thinking inwardly. Damn, what is a man doing inside her room? She opened her eyes suddenly. The moment she looked up, she met a pair of cold-looking eyes staring down at her. She gasped and then started to cough loudly, with hands covering her mouth. She glanced at the room, which was full of red decoration as well as the sticker of double happiness. It was a room meant for a wedding night. You, Xiao Xian sat up quickly and shrunk herself to the corner of the bed, glaring at the man with her eyes widened. Stay away from me. The man sneered slightly and snapped at her with gritted teeth. You mad woman, you are totally unbelievable. You didn't have to marry me if you didn't want to. But for my sharp discovery, my bride would have hung herself on the wedding night. That would ruin my future, and my family's too. Xiao Xian was dumbfounded and eventually saw the hanging white scarf dangling over the beam. The whole scene looked quite scary, especially when the background in the room was in full red. Below the white scarf was a chair that had been upturned. It must have been this cheap husband of hers who came to save her, when a strange sound arose, causing his mother to come over and check what was going on. Suddenly, Xiao Xian felt dizzy and turned pale, as the memory of the original host emerged inside her mind, stirring crazily inside her head. Benovcom, the original host, wasn't born lowly, compared to this husband's family, which was only a farming household. Instead, she was the miss of the county magistrate's family, daughter of a concubine. This daughter of a concubine had been engaged to someone when she was young. That was when her mother was still alive. Her fiancé turned out to be an excellent man, who passed the imperial examination and was ranked third. He even got the chance to practice to become the county magistrate in a neighboring county. Theoretically speaking, the two families should have held the wedding in utter happiness. But Mrs. Dong, the lineal wife of the family, disliked Xiao Xian's birth mother. So she stopped Xiao Xian from marrying an excellent and promising man like that. Therefore, she abducted Xiao Xian by luring her to visit the temple, and got someone to push her into the water. However, this plan, which should have been done secretively, did not work out. Xiao Xian was saved by Xiao Yunduan from Xiaoding village, namely this bridegroom standing in front of her. Since the two of them had some skin-to-skin interaction, a wedding had to be hosted just to keep the girl's reputation as pure and innocent. That made Mrs. Dong extremely cheerful. What a wonderful end it turned out to be. On one hand, she did not have to be burdened with the possibility of killing one person, and on the other hand, Xiao Xian was able to marry a farmer's family where she was going to suffer throughout her whole life, having no chance of turning the table of her own destiny. Therefore, Mrs. Dong informed her husband about this, and swiftly ordered the engagement of Xiao Xian to be broken off. Later, she got Xiao Xian to marry the Xiao family within no time. Xiao Xian, who was feeling furious and sad, lost all her hope. When she was under heavy guard and monitoring, she could do nothing about her life, but still, she still held some hope. But when she got married this time, she secretly lifted the red veil over her head and saw this shabby looking, dungeon-like place. She suddenly felt coldness casting over her body. Feeling that she had no future to look forward to, she decided to hang herself in extreme despair. However, Xiao Yunduan came and saved her right on time. But, actually speaking, the original host was already dead. It was a new Xiao Xian when she woke up again, a time traveler. Chapter 2 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. No divorced Xiao Xian could not help but feel sorry for Xiao Yunduan, who looked furious as he sat on the chair with his hands on his knees, and a straight back. Honestly, it was a misfortune for any family, when their daughter-in-law decided to hang herself on wedding night. If the bride really died, the whole family would turn into a laughing stock in front of numerous households, and would be looked down upon by everyone around. Anyone would get very angry and get furious. But, that was not her business. Xiao Xian was groaning inwardly. What a shitty business she found herself in. Bvec Xiao Yunduan, who looked seriously annoyed, said coldly, "If you don't want to marry me, fine. I will send you home early tomorrow morning. Don't worry, I will tell the county magistrate that it is we, the Xiao family, who don't deserve you. I will mention that clearly on our divorce paper, so you won't be blamed in any way." The couple had already exchanged the dowries and gifts, and done the wedding proceedings. In the modern world, it basically meant that the two of them had already got legally married at the Civil Affairs Office. Although one night had passed and nothing happened, Xiao Xian would either divorce on her own or get divorced by this man. Startled, Xiao Xian shook her head. "No, no. I will stay. She must not leave." If she was divorced by the husband the following day after the wedding, she would never be rid of the fact that she had been rejected by her husband, no matter how well written the divorce paper was. Also, maybe her selfish and ruthless father would not accept her to the family either, claiming that no one from the Qiao family would ever be divorced. After all, she was married off and basically given to her husband's family. She believed that Mrs. Dong and her father would definitely do something like that. When that moment came, her future would be nothing. Even if there was the slightest possibility that her horrible father and Mrs. Dong decided to accept her, would she be able to live a good life? Would she have a completely new life ahead of herself? It would not be a matter of whether there would be a whole new life, but whether she would even have a life. However, if she stayed with the Xiao family, the situation might be a little more promising. She was the daughter of the county magistrate, which was nothing in her own family but could become her protection talisman in her husband's family. As long as she made full use of her family background, she would definitely have a good life here. Also, this husband of hers had a pair of broad shoulders and narrow waist, giving out an excellent air. His nose bridge was tall and he had a very sharp silhouette on his face. His eyes seemed sparkling as well. Well, he was very handsome in her eyes, and she was not in a disadvantageous position either. This husband of hers was a student at Minghua College in the county, and he had passed the imperial examination as the cultivated talent at this young age, so probably, he was going to become some recommended man, or even an advanced scholar in the future, that would make her life even more promising. Besides, she could decide things later, looking at what happened in the future. At the moment it was obvious that she should stay with her husband's family so that her life could be better. Hence, she was not leaving. When the decision was made, Xiao Xian struck her own thigh and squeezed out some tears from her eyes, remembering that she had time-traveled to such a terrible situation. Tearfully, she looked at Xiao Yunduan and sobbed. "It was my mistake a moment ago to have done such a stupid thing. Now I have realized what is more important for me, so don't worry, I will never do that again." He. Xiao Yunduan sneered as if the ice in his eyes had been scattered. "You are the miss of a noble family, but we are just a poor family in the countryside. I should not deserve you, so I won't blame you for making that mistake. If you don't like this arrangement, you truly don't have to bear it. I will tell Officer Chiao that it was all my fault, and in a couple of years, when you move away with Officer Chiao when he gets transferred to somewhere else, no one will know about our wedding. By that time, you can find your own Mr. Right." "That sounds perfect, doesn't it, Second Mississippi?" Xiao Yunduan had not been very happy about this marital arrangement either, but what else could he possibly do about it all this while? He jumped into the water to save someone, when he saw it happen in front of his eyes. He had not expected the consequences of it at the time. Moreover, he had thought that he could tolerate this second miss of the Chiao family by treating her well. But he had not expected that she would rather kill herself on their wedding day, just because she disliked his family. That irritated Xiao Yunduan completely. On the other side, Xiao Xian was also complaining heavily inside her head. The original host had left her in such trouble. But she was not going to get divorced, never. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Promise, no, Xiao Xian started to act unreasonably. I am not leaving, anyway. It was my fault for what I did. I apologize for that. If you are not okay with it, just tell me what you want me to do. Hee. Xiao Yunduan still sneered. Xiao Xian tried harder. We have gotten married today, so if we get divorced tomorrow, our two families would be laughing stocks in front of everyone. You have to think for your whole family, if not for yourself. Xiao Yunduan got so annoyed by her shameless words. He said ironically, "Thank you for your concern about my family." Oh well, you don't have to say that. I mean, we have to think about the best method to deal with the situation, don't we? Divorce isn't the best solution, obviously. That, of course, was crystal clear to Xiao Yunduan. Even though he himself wasn't so interested in this marriage, yet everyone in and outside the village, his family and friends, either his acquaintances or strangers, were all jealous of him when they learned this news. Everyone was saying that the Xiao family had gotten lucky. Moreover, it was being said that because of luck, a poor man like Xiao Yunduan was able to become the son-in-law of the county magistrate. Therefore, he himself could not imagine how many snickers he would receive, if they were divorced the next morning after the wedding. Well, it was his bad luck that brought him to this situation. Xiao Xian was observing the man who wasn't looking that cheerful, but at least, he did not seem to look as determined as he had been about divorce a while ago. Feeling slightly relieved, she begged in a soft voice by making a secondary proposal. What about we do it like this? You accept me for the time being, but in a couple of years, we get divorced on the right occasion. Xiao Yunduan was confused. He asked with a low voice and eyebrows raised. Is that what you are truly thinking? It would not be the best time for you after a couple of years. Xiao Xian did not care much and said casually, I will only be 17 or 18 years old in a couple of years. What should I be worried about anyway? Xiao Yunduan. That was a very confident claim. Xiao Yunduan had no idea how to counter those words. All right then, if that's what she wanted, he would have no objection. If you want to stay at my place, then you will have to behave like the daughter-in-law of the Xiao family and do what a daughter-in-law should do. You should never be impolite to my parents or my siblings, be Noel them also, we are a poor family and have no servants to serve you. So, you have to do everything yourself. Our food is simple and ordinary, mostly to keep away hunger, that's all. You have to know about all of these. Xiao Xian replied without thinking. Sure, I understand it all. Xiao Yunduan was still sneering inside his heart. She understood it all. She must be joking, no. He did not think that she understood anything. But it was the only way to deal with the situation right now, and that was what they had to accept. Well, what about the future? Suddenly, Xiao Yunduan had some anxious thoughts crossing his head. Well, he had to stop thinking about the future at this moment. Besides, he was going to get this spoiled girl out of the Xiao family after 1 or 2 difficult years anyway. During the upcoming years, it would already be enough for him, as long as she did not cause any trouble and lived obediently with him. It was a quiet night. The following morning, Xiao Yunduan woke up Xiao Xian by shaking her. She drowsily opened her eyes and saw Xiao Yunduan standing by the bedside, looking properly dressed. He said as he saw her waking up, time to get up now. Xiao Xian let out a small sound, blinked her eyes, yawned and then nodded slightly. Okay, getting up now, no daughter. In law of any family should sleep in, she was well aware of this point. Actually, when the original host was residing at her own home, she was a pitiful little girl who was forced to get up earlier than the morning roosters. Only she understood how miserable her life was. After all, she had been a very ordinary girl in the modern society in her previous life. But even if that was the case, she had never gotten up so early. She was a newly wedded woman, who was supposed to serve tea to the elderly people in the family and had to address them differently henceforth. After she washed herself up, Xiao Xian went for the meeting with the Xiao family, officially. Chapter 4. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. First day of wedding. The Xiao family's old master had 3 children. Xiao Yunduan was not born as the eldest one. His grandparents had already passed away, and old master Xiao as well as his 3 brothers were already separated from the family. Xiao Yunduan's father was called Xiao Dakuan, and his mother was addressed as Ms. Fang. His elder brother was called Xiao Yunlian, the eldest son amongst all the siblings. Xiao Yunlian's wife was called Ms. Su and they had a boy and a girl together. Xiao Yunlian's son, namely Xiao Yunduan's nephew, was called Xiao Junyan. He was 6 years old and his niece Xiao Qing was only 3 years old. Xiao Yunduan had named both his nephew and niece, which pleased the children's parents completely. They believed that their children's names sounded better than those of other children in the village. Also, if the children were named by a person who could read, then it would mean a good beginning, which might bring in more auspiciousness. Xiao Yunguang was the second brother, and he was yet to get married. But the reason why Xiao Yunduan, who ranked the 5th in the family, got married first was only because he saved Xiao Xian who fell into the water, and that basically hastened the wedding to take place, to keep the girl's reputation clean. Xiao Yunhui was the 4th brother, ranking the 7th in all the siblings. He had a twin sister called Xiao Taotao, who was only 13 years old this year. The old master's second child was called Xiao Delu, and his wife was addressed as Ms. Niu. They had 2 sons and 1 girl together, namely Xiao Yunshan, who ranked 2nd among all the siblings, and Xiao Yunxiao who ranked 4th. Xiao Yunshan married Ms. Zhang and they had 1 son and daughter together, namely Xiao Wan and Xiao Xianwen. Xiao Yunxiao was not yet married and he was seeking a proper suitor at the moment. Their daughter Xiao Meiling was only 15 years old this year. Xiao Dashi, who was the old master's 3rd child, married a woman called Ms. Ma. Their eldest daughter, Xiao Meiji was already married whilst the younger daughter Xiao Xiaoji was just 3 months younger than Xiao Taotao. Their son Xiao Yunjiang was 15 years old, ranking 6th among all the siblings. He was yet to get married and was studying in the county. At this moment, Xiao Xian only got to meet the eldest family, whilst the 2nd and 3rd families would arrive by evening for a family reunion dinner, when they would all meet. Xiao Xian bore everyone present in mind. Luckily for her, not many people were there yet. The Xiao family were very curious and nervous about this well-born daughter-in-law of theirs, and they looked quite ashamed too. Her in-laws looked as if they were trying hard to press down their anxiety. Xiao Xian greeted them politely and said with a smile, "Dad, Mom." That put the burden off their shoulders totally. Good, good. This daughter-in-law had a nice temper. Xiao Yunduan, who knew what Xiao Xian was like in the past, let out a sigh of relief as well. This woman was not going to make a fuss here, and was even behaving better than he had anticipated. Had she really thought everything through? There were not so many complicated rules in farmers' families, so all was done after the daughter-in-law served the tea and met each of the family members. Ms. Fang, her mother-in-law, passed on some auspicious and encouraging words, before everyone was dismissed and went down to their own business. Xiao Xian thought for a while and followed Ms. Fang directly. In this era, it was very important to get a good impression from the mother-in-law. As long as the mother-in-law stood by the daughter-in-law's side, she would have a firm status at home. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble and problems coming on to her unexpectedly. The Xiao family were sizing her up on the sly when she served them tea. So did she. Moreover, she paid extra attention to her mother-in-law, who was the key. As far as Qiao Xian could tell, her mother-in-law was generally a nice woman, which made it much easier for her to carry out her own plan. "Mom," Qiao Xian caught up with Ms. Fang, showing a nice smile and looking rather obedient. "Please, tell me what I should do, and teach me if I am not familiar with anything." "Oh," Ms. Fang smiled brightly and looked at Qiao Xian with a friendly gaze. "It is okay. Just take good care of your husband, so that he can concentrate on studies. You don't have to worry about family affairs." She was the daughter of the county magistrate. It was absolutely normal for her to stay away from housework, which was taken care of by someone else in the family. It did not have to be her concern. Ms. Fang was already very happy when she saw her behaving so obediently. She was not going to make her do any housework. Qiao Xian was very surprised, but started to chuckle inwardly. It was a smart decision of hers to have made such a move. She insisted on showing how willing she was to learn to do housework, which pleased Ms. Fang, who became increasingly glad and turned even more determined to let her take a rest instead. Qiao Xian, who failed to persuade Ms. Fang, gave up eventually. Chapter 5 You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The wood superpower Qiao Xian was wandering about in the yard where she planned to confirm one thing. There was a loquat tree planted on the side of the yard. The fruits on the tree, which were still quite green, were starting to turn yellow. They were hanging on the branches. It seemed that the fruits would become ripe and tasty enough in a dozen days. She walked forward and stretched out her hands. She put her palms on the trunk of the tree that was more than 30 centimeters thick, gathering her concentration on it. Slowly, the whole tree started to turn greener, as the twigs grew wildly and leaves opened up. For a moment, the fruits on the tree started to turn yellow and ripe, one bunch after another. Qiao Xian withdrew her hands instantly, seeing that the effect was far better than she had expected. The moment she withdrew her hands, the unusual growth of the tree stopped all of a sudden as well. She looked down at her hands, feeling extremely glad. She had felt something weird the night before, when she wasn't in a clear state of mind. In the morning when she was washing herself, she found that the moment she touched the water, a kind of sensational feeling appeared instantly, and within a few moments, some peculiar information emerged and filled up her head. Only at that moment did she become sure that she had obtained a wood-like superpower. Wood generated water, so the superpower would become exceptionally strong when she touched water. Qiao Xian, who felt as if she had received a new kind of toy, planned to have a try. At this moment, she saw a bunch of mint leaves which seemed very thin. So she squatted and reached out to the bunch with a slight touch. That small touch of hers did not cause any changes upon the mint. But when she concentrated and tried to gather a stream of spiritual power into the plant, and had the mint placed in the center of her mind, the bunch started to grow instantly. She withdrew her hands and was completely sure about her abilities. She closed her eyes and tried to enjoy her superpower. This ability of hers was not only able to give a boost to plants, but also sensed all kinds of moves around her through the plants, since the roots of those plants were interconnected with each other, underground. For example, at this moment, when she lightly touched one bunch of mint, she instantly got a clear knowledge of all the grass and woods in the yard, even about the ants in each corner, as if everything was moving right under her eyes. Therefore, she believed that she was going to have an easy time catching the animals and birds in the mountains. Also, she could see that the range of her super powerful senses could expand further, as the power became stronger. That pleased Qiao Xian thoroughly. What was more, that superpower had given her an extra space, which was completely barren at the moment and had not opened the access to her. But she knew clearly that there would be one day, when she became qualified enough to enter that place and could make good use of it. But the qualifications which she needed for it were not clearly known to her. Still, she was sure that it was related to her superpower as well. What she could sense right now was that there seemed to be an extremely advanced system connected in space, through which she was able to find all knowledge related to plants. Motivated, Xiao Xian was more certain that she was not going to have a boring life from this moment on. She had a lot to explore, like this superpower of hers. At around 9 or so, the breakfast was ready for the family. After she finished the tea-serving step, her father-in-law, the elder and second brother as well as Xiao Yunduan, all went to the village to work as laborers. At this moment, they just returned home. It was the spring season, the best season for farming. Hence, all farmers were very busy with farming. It was a bit cool in the morning, which was the best time for work. All hard-working families would get up early to do some work on farmland to start the day with. What surprised Xiao Xian was that Xiao Yunduan went down to the farmland and did labor work as well. Wasn't he a man who only read books? Suddenly, she had a nice impression of this man. He seemed like a good person. Chapter 6. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. A surprise scene. Soon after breakfast, the family found that the loquats in the yard had ripened. And the mint, which had just been planted a couple of days earlier, was now flourishing vividly too. They all spoke highly of this magical scene and held a heated discussion among themselves. But no one was able to draw a conclusion of why that happened, so they all agreed to believe that it was because this patch of land was in a rich environment. Maybe the water and the soil had turned better, causing the loquats to ripen faster, and for mints to flourish more wildly. Xiao Xian had a smile on her face, feeling very proud. These were her achievements. Xiao Yunhuai, the seventh brother of the whole family, was nicknamed Little Seven. He was physically agile and loved to explore the woods and valleys whenever he had time. Therefore, he always brought back home some wild roosters, birds and rabbits for the family to eat. When he saw the yellow loquats, he could not help but climb onto the tree quickly and picked a large bucket of the fruits for the family to eat. Ah, the loquats seemed to taste sweeter and have more tender flesh than those in the past year. Xiao Yunguang spoke in a praising tone, as he grabbed an armful of them. Ms. Fong glared at him. You are talking nonsense. You don't even remember how they tasted last year. Xiao Taotao smiled and said, Mom, I am not sure if other people might remember, but I am sure that third brother should definitely remember the taste. He loves all sorts of fruits, he must be right about it. Xiao Yunguang really loved food. He was a very persistent foodie, who would even hold the hive tightly in his arms and run for as far as one whole mountain, even when he was chased by wild bees after he tried to get the delicious honey. That experience of his made him the object of laughter in the whole village for half a month. Hearing what Xiao Taotao said, everyone could not help but laugh. When they were done with tasting loquats, they went down and continued with the labor work. Ms. Fong stopped Xiao Yunduan and glared at him. Where are you going? Your father and your elder brother and third brother can do the labor work, but you will have to keep your wife company, okay? She has just become part of our family. Don't give her the cold shoulder. Then Ms. Fong turned to Xiao Xian with a sweet smile. Ms. Qiao, your husband is a very nice person, but he is a little bit careless. Men are always like that, right? If you are unhappy about anything he does or says, just tell me, and I will seek justice for your sake. Xiao Xian smiled brightly. Mom, my husband is a good person and he is very careful too. Don't worry, I won't be unhappy. It is my fortune to have met such a nice husband and mother-in-law. Well, she knew pretty well how to behave at this moment. A mother could criticize her own son, but she as the wife could not say anything bad about him. Xiao Xian suddenly felt that she was making a smart move. Sure enough, Ms. Fong smiled even more brightly after hearing her exaggerated praises. She chuckled. You are such a nice girl. It is our fortune to have you as the daughter-in-law, and Yunduan's fortune too, ha ha ha. I feel so honored to have been praised by you, mother-in-law. No, it is all because you are a nice child. I will definitely learn from you and become a good daughter-in-law for the Xiao family. Okay. Ha 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 ha. Xiao Yunduan. He was totally dumbfounded hearing how well the two women were getting on with each other. He wondered what position he was at the moment. He even suspected that he had misunderstood what he had just heard. What on earth was going on? His mother was not very satisfied with his brother's wife, actually, and had been complaining about her, who seemed quiet but was actually really selfish and full of tricks inside her head. She even did not like the neighboring village girl, whom his third brother had laid eyes on. She complained that such a dull boy should not have teamed up with an even more dull girl, if they wanted to have a smooth life. More importantly, that girl was parentless and had a greedy brother and sister-in-law who seemed to be extremely annoying and insatiable. But why was his mother behaving like this, when it came to his wife? Chapter 7. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Your company to me. Xiao Yunduan, who had turned completely stunned, and messy in his head, came back to himself after a slight push from his mother and uttered a very confused sound. What? What? Ms. Fong glared at him, seemingly displeased by how slow his reaction was. Then she gave him a look and said, "What are you staring at? Go and keep your wife company." Xiao Yunduan moved his lips. What more could he say? Okay, Mom, saying yes was the only thing he could do right now. Ms. Fong then turned to Qiao Xian and consoled her with a smile, before leaving in satisfaction. She had met numerous people in her life, and was very sure about her own judgment of her daughter-in-law. The girl was a pure, open and straightforward person, who was born in a noble family but had no arrogance in her. She did not look down at the Xiao family, and respected her mother-in-law completely. Ms. Fong had all the reason to show more care towards her. Also, her son was a man with a gloomy personality, who was really suitable for an open and easygoing girl like her. What a great match written in destiny. Xiao Yunduan looked at Xiao Xian, and complications arose in his eyes and heart. You are really capable of making my mom happy. Xiao Xian showed a modest smile. Thank you for your compliment. Xiao Yunduan's words got stuck in his mouth. I am not praising you, okay? Don't thank me. Xiao Xian almost felt like bursting into laughter, seeing how he looked so wronged and speechless. She could not help but feel like teasing him. Oh well, Mom told you to keep me company, how do you plan to do that? Xiao Yunduan was actually a well-mannered man who barely threw temper at people. But for some reason, he truly got annoyed whenever this woman started to talk. When he saw her blinking and waiting for him to give a reply, Xiao Yunduan answered stiffly. Any way you like. Xiao Xian tilted her head and thought for a while. What about teaching me to write? I am not very good at holding the brush-pen, and you have to correct me one step after another, okay? What she meant was that he could stand behind her back, hold her hands in a flirtatious and nice way. When Xiao Xian said the words, Xiao Yunduan subconsciously had this image in his head. His eyes widened in astonishment. You, so shameless. Xiao Xian covered her mouth and chuckled merrily so much so that the man in front of her got really angry and his face was distorted. She waved her hands and said with a smile, I am just joking with you. Don't be so serious. I am going to sort through my dowries. You don't have to keep me company. You can do whatever you want. Bye. Xiao Yunduan. Xiao Yunduan was so angry as he saw the woman leaving from there. He could not help but feel his heated ears. He mumbled to himself through gritted teeth and left in irritation. He was sure that the girl did not change, but had her mind undergone a transformation after experiencing death once. It was indeed an enormous change, after all. Could she have decided to open up herself, since she was already stuck in a bad marital situation? Xiao Yunduan could not help but let out an emotional sigh. Women's mood is just like the weather of June, so fickle and changeable. Xiao Xian had 26 sets of dowries, which were transported into the Xiao family the day before, causing much jealousy among neighbors and friends. Normally, village girls had at most 6 or 8 sets of dowries when they got married, and even fewer families were able to offer 12 or 16 sets. People kept saying that the Xiao family were getting lucky because of the moralities which their ancestors had accumulated. Their newly wedded daughter-in-law had so many dowries that were really enough for the whole family to live on for one lifetime. Xiao Xian rolled her eyes and sneered. Those dowries were just numbers on the surface. All the 26 sets contained low-quality things. For example, according to the notes of Dowry notebook, there should be one pair of treasured vases, which, however, turned out to be a pair of very cheap porcelain vases wrapped in large boxes and was still counted as one dowry piece. Chapter 8. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Dowries. Another example was the clothes. Those garments for seasons were either cheesecloth or hemp cloth. There was not even a set of ordinary silk, let alone the newly launched brocade. Moreover, those cheap things were all put in large boxes and counted as 4 sets of dowries. As for money in the bottom of boxes, it took Xiao Xian ages to dig out those few sporadic coins. Well, as the saying went, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Even though the dowries were not that abundant, they were still better than that of village girls. But those things, when compared to the real daughters of county magistrate, were simply an insult and humiliation. But for Xiao Xian, she believed that these things were enough for her life for now. Even this small amount was already a large sum for the farmer families. So, Madame Xiao might have humiliated or heavily stricken the original host of the body, but for her, it was nothing. Compared to being completely poor, she was happy that she was able to get these to start with. She could just earn money if she needed it. She was going to strike them back in the future. That should be extremely relaxing for her. When she was done sorting through the dowries, Xiao Xian generously handed out the cloth to her mother-in-law and Ms. Su, the elder brother's wife. She gave the clothes to the family for making dresses. Noel.n for the farmers' families. Such garments were already treasure, though they were not so valuable in her eyes. Both Ms. Fong and Ms. Su were startled in disbelief. Ms. Fong was hesitant. She desired those things, but was worried that others would spread the rumor that she was stealing her daughter-in-law's dowries. Honestly, when the dowries were transported to her family the day before, she had heard many sour words from the other members in the family, who kept sneering and could not hide their jealousy. Xiao Xian smiled with bright eyes, seeing their reaction. It is a small gift, Mom. You shouldn't consider me as an outsider. Now I am your daughter-in-law, otherwise I would feel so unassured about myself. We are a family, aren't we? We should stick together, right? Ms. Fong laughed and accepted the gifts, then she added. Dowries are the supporters of a daughter-in-law, and you should keep them instead of wasting them. We have a long life to share together. Xiao Xian felt warmth attacking her heart. She was truly moved somehow. She nodded and smiled. Thank you, Mom. Then, she took out 2 flourishing-looking silk flowers and gave them to Xiao Taotao and Xiao Qin respectively. In her eyes, these silk flowers were roughly made. Yet they still cost as much 25 yuan for one pair, which was a huge expense for rural families. Ms. Su was very glad and expressed her thankfulness on behalf of Xiao Qin. Xiao Taotao liked the flowers too, and said thank you with a reddened face, before putting the flowers on head. All women present spoke highly of how she looked. Xiao Xian felt a bit guilty after she gave out the garments and silk flowers, since she did have a selfish purpose. So, she made more effort in trying to give compliments, which led to a happy laughter among all the women. She was actually testing how her mother-in-law, brother's wife and husband's sister were like, when she gave out so many gifts. If any of them was greedy, she would know. But none of them were so. Even though Ms. Su might seem to have some selfish thoughts, she still believed that her thoughts were reasonable. At this moment, Xiao Xian felt totally assured. What she did not know, however, was that it was Ms. Su's turn to feel guilty. The moment Xiao Xian became part of the family, Ms. Su had been put into shadow. So she had been feeling really annoyed by how she behaved. When she saw how Xiao Xian tried to please their mother law, she had been cursing her as shameless inside her head. But Xiao Xian turned out to be so generous that she gave her so many garments, 2 of which were thick enough to be made into cotton coats in winter. She even gave Shaoqing such a beautiful silk flower. So, she suddenly felt that she should not have cursed her and thought of her as someone shameless. Chapter 9. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Bad intention. Her sister in law was so generous and the husband was now the cultivated talent. He was surely going to become better and bring more honor to the family. No, he was not a selfish and cold-hearted man. She decided to treat the couple well, so she could have a better future with them too. Before her sister in law came to the family, she was the one who did all the housework. So there was no need to be sour about this. After all, she was the daughter of the county magistrate. As Ms. Su thought everything through, she even fastened her steps on the way to wash clothes by the riverside. However, on the way there, she ran into Ms. Niu. She greeted her and said, "Hey, sister in law. Oh hi." Ms. Niu had been really sour about the newly wedded bride the day before, and when she saw the sets of dowries carried into the house, she became so jealous that she hardly slept during the night. Therefore, when Ms. Niu ran into Ms. Su at the moment, her eyes brightened and she decided to pick on this woman in front of her. "Are you on the way to wash the clothes?" Ms. Niu sized up Ms. Su and smiled. "Honestly, you should teach some things to the newly wedded sister in law. You should bring her along with you for the housework." Ms. Su was startled for a moment and then replied with a smile. "I don't think she has any clothes to wash today." "I will ask her tomorrow," Ms. Niu replied. "She doesn't have any clothes to wash. But she can help you, can't she?" "Oh my God, look at these many clothes. Are all of them to be washed by you alone? You were doing the housework all by yourself in the past, but now you have a helper, who should share your burden, right? Doesn't your mother in law say anything? It is such an unfair move for you. You are just too conventional. You are her elder sister in law, and also the senior member of the family. Now Ms. Chiao is married to our family, so no matter which family she comes from, she should still respect you. Well, I think that she is looking down on you. You should build an image for yourself and tame her. Otherwise, she will act over the top and cause you trouble. You won't like it. Trust me, you are too honest and you will be bullied. I care for you, that is why I am reminding you." Ms. Niu was in the middle of her happy talk, when suddenly a loud voice arose from behind. "What are you talking about?" Ms. Niu and Ms. Su were both startled, as they turned around and saw Ms. Fong coming their way. Ms. Su was surprised and was about to give an explanation. "Mom, stand aside." Ms. Fong snorted as she threw a cold glance at Ms. Su. She sneered at Ms. Niu. "What are you sharing with my daughter in law? How about repeating it in front of me, so I can also learn something from you to see what mistakes I have made, which you are trying to teach my daughter in law?" Ms. Su flushed, not knowing what to do. Ms. Niu panicked but soon calmed down, thinking that her sister in law was talking louder and looking excited. Could it be because they got the daughter of the county magistrate as the daughter in law? The thought made her feel even more sour. As jealousy arose into her head, Ms. Niu felt even more envious and she responded with a strange smile. "Look at you, it seems as if you are interrogating me. People might think that I have made a mistake. You are now the county magistrates in laws, and you have suddenly become very arrogant. You don't even think of me as part of your family anymore, do you? Stop spreading your nonsense." Ms. Fong snapped at her and cursed heavily. "I know you are just jealous. I heard those disgusting words you said yesterday, but it was a happy and auspicious wedding scene where friends and families were all around, so I decided not to argue with you at the time. Does that make you feel as if nothing was heard by me? Yes, I am arrogant, so what? You can be arrogant too, if you can afford it. If you can't, just shut up. Ms. Nyo's face flushed out of anger. You. Chapter 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mother.in.law's anger. What? Ms. Fong was never a loser in arguments. She had her hands over her waist and snapped at Ms. Nyo. I don't need you to teach my daughter.in.law. Only stupid people would listen to your advice instead of mine. Just save your breath. You can teach your own daughter.in.law if you have the time. I heard that your daughter.in.law again sneaked food to her mother's family a couple of days ago, didn't she? Oh God, what a nice daughter she is, right? On the other hand, I am really lucky to have gotten such a wonderful daughter.in.law. Ms. Nyo shivered out of anger. Her eyes widened and her face turned green. Her eldest son's wife, Ms. Zhang, had always favored her own family. She had been sneaking things from the Xiao family to her own family ever since she got married, to show filial piety to her own parents. At first Ms. Nyo and her husband knew nothing about it. They both assumed that the family must have been robbed somehow, which caused a great deal of laughter among fellow villagers. When they knew that it was Ms. Zhang's deeds, they became extremely annoyed. But Ms. Zhang, whenever he was caught, begged them for forgiveness with tears in her eyes. Yet not long after, she started to make the same mistake again. However, she was a lucky mother who had given birth to one daughter and one son, whilst the other son of the family had not yet found a suitor. With one son and one daughter as the leverage, Ms. Nyo and her husband would not be able to divorce Ms. Zhang easily. Also, if they were going to find another daughter.in.law for their son, it would cost more money too. Therefore, Ms. Nyo tried to find ways to deal with Ms. Zhang every single day. While one of them tried to find a way to hide the things, the other spared no effort to steal the stuff. There was always chaos happening in their house. Ms. Zhang was a strange woman too. If she failed to steal something for a long while, she would simply pull out the carrots and cabbages from the yard, and deliver them to her mother's home. When Ms. Fong mentioned this point, Ms. Nyo was stabbed deeply in her heart and lungs. Seeing that she got so angry that she could not utter a sound, Ms. Fong snorted arrogantly and glared back at Ms. Su. What are you standing here for, huh? Ms. Su, who had seen her mother.in.law throwing temper in such a way, got so frightened that she almost collapsed. What? She answered anxiously. Okay, Mom. I will go and wash clothes now. Yes, now. With that, Ms. Su dashed off. Although her mother.in.law had never set up traps for her or scolded her unreasonably, for some reason, Ms. Su was very scared of her mother.in.law. When mother.in.law was wearing a serious look on her face, Ms. Su would dare to utter no sound. Ms. Nyo regained her breath and shivered. You, don't be so happy this early. You never know what your new daughter.in.law is like. You may have gotten one who can do nothing but wants to be spoiled all the time. That would be a big joke for your family. Ms. Fong would have been worried about this before the wedding, but now, she was not concerned about this matter. She sneered ironically. All right then, I am waiting for you to laugh at me, if you can. Having said the words, she ignored Ms. Nyo and walked away. Ms. Nyo let out a cry of anger. Damn, this Ms. Fong is such a witch. What is she so proud of? As long as our brother defends us, she will have no place in the family. Our brother is the head of the family, not her. Only now did she realize that she did not have to argue with Ms. Fong. There was simply no need. Ms. Nyo was thinking about having a discussion with her husband and her sister.in.law, Ms. Ma, about how to find a good match for her son and daughter. They needed money to start to prepare the gift. Since Ms. Fong had Ms. Chiao as the daughter.in.law, she would need to help them prepare some gifts too, right? Her brother had always been very generous to his siblings. As she thought about this, Ms. Nyo started to get really happy and decided to turn to Ms. Ma for a conversation.